Okay, so now I'd like to bring up my partners in crime. That would be Mike, and that would also be Skip Bennett. So, as many of you know, there was a great article in Berlin Daily Sun on Monday about the Berlin Model Neighborhood Program. And this program is the first of its kind in the country, we think. There are 40 units that are available of the pellet boilers for owner-occupied buildings in Berlin. And in order to qualify for the program, the building has to be in Berlin, it has to be owner-occupied residential. You have to go through the BetterBuildings program, which means that you're having an audit of the building, and you are reaching a minimum 15% increase in efficiency in that building. The benefits are numerous for these projects. The first one being that your cost of fuel is cut almost in half, just as soon as you go to a pellet boiler. So then if you tighten up your building, then you're getting increased benefits because you can buy a smaller unit to actually heat the building under your hot water. So for the details, I'm going to bring Mike and Skip up. And Mike's from the Northern Forest Center. He's the program coordinator for the Northern Forest Center, and we're working together, the three organizations, Skip's with Maine Energy Systems. We're working together to implement this program in Berlin. So, John?
Thanks, Cambria. I'll add a bit of information about where this project came from and how the Northern Forest Center got into it. Essentially, a little more detail around what the offer is, and then I'll skip a little bit on the technical side of it. Skip works with Maine Energy Systems, which is the assembler and distributor of the pellet systems and pellets that we're incentivizing through this project. The Northern Forest Center, as Kimberly said, is a nonprofit organization. We're based in Concord, New Hampshire. Our mission is essentially to help communities benefit from forest-based economic and conservation initiatives. We work all across northern Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and New York. We got involved in this project largely from looking at opportunities to strengthen the forest-based economy across the northern forest region, and really seeing one of the a primary leakage point in our economy is our spending on fossil fuels, our spending on heating oil in particular. The northeastern United States uses about 82% of all the heating oil that's used in the United States. This is the place where we use heating oil. And at the same time, we have vast forests that are generally well managed with a strong wood supply. That as technologies are continuing to develop, we're learning that we can use more and more efficiently in particular for thermal uses, to heat homes and buildings. From the Northern Forest Center's standpoint, the benefits of making this kind of a switch are multiple, as can be said. In the front end, it just simply helps local homeowners and property managers save money on their heating bills. Like Kimberly said, typically 40 to 50% saving on fuel costs. From a bigger picture standpoint, by making this change to wood-based energy, we're helping to support markets for low-grade wood. As we see changes in the forest economy and timberland ownership, this is a way to help create incentives, markets for wood to help landowners keep their forests as forests. There's employment development opportunities for the manufacture of the wood products, of the wood pellets themselves, which are a value-added product. And then ultimately, coming back to what I said at the very beginning, it's a way of keeping our local energy dollars circulating in local economies. Every dollar that we spend on home heating oil, about 78 cents out of that dollar leaves the region or the local economy right away. When we replace that and start spending those dollars on locally or regionally produced wood pellets for fuels, all that money is staying in our regional economy, circulating, supporting communities and jobs. So from the Northern Forest Center, this is a great opportunity for the region, not just this area, but for the broader region, to really make a switch to this kind of wood-based heating system. For this project in particular, we've been able to raise some funds through the Neil and Louise Tillotson Fund, with support from Citizens Bank, Grapponi Auto, and Northway Bank, which have purchased Community Development Finance Authority tax credits to support the program. And basically what we have available at this point is essentially an additional subsidy, building right on the subsidy that Kate mentioned earlier, the $6,000 PUC subsidy. We're in a place for, we're we have commitments to 5 homeowners in Berlin right now, and over the next 2 years, we want to install a total of 40 wood pellet boilers in residential units. So in addition to, as long as the New Hampshire PUC rebate is available, we essentially have an additional rebate of $8,000 to go on top of that. So again, depending on the specifics of your situation, the rebates are going to cover probably 50 to 75% of the cost of the installation of the system. As you know, we're very thankful for the New Hampshire the state rebate. You know, hopefully it will be renewed and will stay in place. If it doesn't, though, if in the period of this project that rebate goes away, we're prepared to bump our rebate up by about 5. We won't be able to fill the whole gap that the state rebate would leave, but we would bump our rebate up significantly to help fill the gap. Because again, from our standpoint, there's a lot of value in making this switch, and we're looking to Berlin as essentially a model neighborhood, a place where we can really get some traction with these systems and help people understand how they work. Like we said, they really are these seamless replacements for an oil boiler. You're not schlepping bags of pellets. And that's one of the tricks of making the switch with these, is creating the opportunity for more and more people to see the systems work, so that they have a comfort level to bring them into their own home. So. And that's the basics on the additional subsidy that the Northern Forest Center is offering. Skip, you want to talk a little bit about the system?
Yeah, sure. What Mike was sharing there right now with the $6,000 from the New Hampshire rebate and the $8,000 from in, so it's $14,000 that goes towards the cost of the system. That sounds like a lot of money. The systems do cost more than that. But the reason for getting this going in this area, in addition to what Mike shared there, was the early adopters that are coming to kind of look into this and say, hey, this is definitely something that's viable. They've learned, they've done the research and recognized that this is sustainable fuel. It certainly is going to be around for a while. This is real. They're being able to be the benefactors of this program. And one of the things that's also going to parlay with this is those first several dozen homes up to the 40. We're going to take that information that is happening at their home, and it's actually the boiler that's burning in their home is going to talk to and take data from it and send it on to a certain website that just basically shares that information that says, hey, here's Skip's home, 2,200 square feet. He used to burn, whatever, 1,500 gallons of oil, put in this system, did some energy efficiency upgrades, and is now burning so many tons of pellets. But you can look at the boiler data live and get an idea of what's really happening, how much are they really saving, and this will be representative over, over those 40 homes. So there's a lot of information that will be shared, and being part of that early adopter group, you have these advantages to take care of. And it allows other people to look beyond the scope of just Berlin, but also in this area to say, hey, this is certainly something that's real, the fuel's out there, and I want to explore this. They can look and say, hey, this is the size of my home, and they can start to kind of have a real gravity to represent that information. These systems that are being built over by Maine Energy System right over in Bethel, Maine, are essentially parts that we get from over in Austria from a company called Okofen, or O-K-O-F-E-N, and sometimes in the U.S. we just say Okofen, but Okofen, and we build all those there, do the final assembly of everything there. So it's built in the USA, and those systems are then distributed and built and are distributed and put into different homes. Many businesses, other commercial properties that are looking into this as well. We have these installed and operating from all over Pennsylvania up through all of Maine. I don't think we're in New Jersey yet, but anyway, that's the scope there. And as Mike shared, if you count Pennsylvania through New York, 82% of the heating oil in the U.S. is consumed in that region. So we're very much tied to that. These systems, no bigger than 3 feet by 4 feet in terms of a footprint, are a complete replacement for your existing boiler system. So if you have a boiler or a system that's making hot water and heating your home with radiant or hot water baseboard heat, it's a great plug. It's a plug and play. It's a very quick switch over. If you happen to have a furnace, this is also something that can work with a furnace as well. That you go through a heat exchanger to convert that hot water to basically like a radiator working backwards in your car. Okay, so that's something that it's a very simple system in and of itself. It's fully automated. You don't need to handle or touch any pellets. You don't handle or touch any of the ash. All that it takes it from the storage hopper, if you will, on site, And as Kate shared earlier, this is what fits in that for the New Hampshire rebate. It automatically conveys it from the storage hopper to the boiler itself. Sorry, Mike. Burner there, and then it's going to burn that, make a little bit of ash. And using premium pellets, the ash content is generally going to be under 1%. So every 2 to 3 tons of pellets, you're going to end up with this little container. Flip a lever and lift up this container and dump it in its receptacle. And at home is probably every 4 to 6 weeks. That's a common time period that you'll recognize to empty this ash. And it takes less than a minute. I could do it like this. I'm not going to be wearing ash. It's not a big plume cloud. It's very, very simple system. So that in short is really what this opportunity is. So if you have interest in exploring this and say, hey, I'm very interested in wanting to cut my fuel back, my oil back, I want to scale that back or get rid of it completely, this is something worth looking into. I know Peter are both here, who are part of the first 5 group in Berlin that have put these systems in, and just underway to experiencing fuel savings right now. There's a lot to share with the system, and it's something that's, I don't want to consume time. I don't know the time frame, Kimberly, that you have. But I brought some general information and booklets as well to share. It's a system that's very effective. It's been around for, these same systems have been in use in the European area for about 15 years. So it's not new technology. That's very important to understand. Other than maybe different skins on it or a couple different electronic controllers, it's essentially the same system that's been being used over the European area. If you did any research, you would find that the European area, from a renewable standpoint, biomass is many years ahead of us on a residential level, and consequently are able to save quite a bit on their fuel. I'll leave it at that. I know there's usually questions that pop up, but I want to be mindful of the time frame as well. And
I thought of 3 more things while you were talking, but they're quick. One is as Skip mentioned, essentially in exchange for the subsidy that the Northern Forest Center is offering, we do ask folks to essentially make an Ethernet port available so the system can be plugged into the internet. In addition, the expectation, and we have a little bit of paperwork. We ask that folks essentially respond to a series of questionnaires over the course of the year to give us information about their experience with the system, and that 2 or 3 times a year, if the opportunity arises, that they make their home available so people can come in and see the system in operation. So we do ask a little something in return for the subsidy, but it's not too onerous. The other piece is that in addition to the residential piece of the Model Neighborhood Project, we are also looking for opportunities to work with affordable housing projects and municipal community buildings. We're hoping to do a project with Berlin Housing Authority in coming months. We've been talking with Joan Chamberlain at St. Karen's and Pamela Flam over at City Hall about opportunities to put systems in there as well. So really only have the capacity probably to do 3 or 4 each affordable housing projects and municipal/community buildings over the same time period. And then the last piece I would say, again looking back at Peter and Peter, is we want to extend our thanks to the folks who, our first 5 members of that first group who've agreed to work with us on this as we've been figuring out the process. There have been some learning curves in terms of the best approach to the installation process, the appropriate pricing, and creating the right expectations for folks. We think we're starting to get that ironed out, but the Peters over there in the corner have been very helpful with that process, and we want to make sure that we're thanking them for that. And actually the last piece I would say, the period on all this has been Kimberly and her ability to really work with people on the ground here to walk them through this program and the broader BetterBuildings program. Should be great to work with.
Thank you very much, guys. So any questions?
I have a question. I know that the Recofin is like wed, if you will, to the Berlin area right now. When do you see that expanding, let's say, to the Concord area?
The couple answers. One, with this model neighborhood project, this is the first model neighborhood. Right. Our hope, for the Northern Forest Center, our core area is the northern parts of the state, so we're actually working with people over in the Adirondacks to see if we can identify a community in the Adirondacks or one in Vermont. And ultimately, the idea behind this is to create these reference populations so that people in other parts of the state can learn more about the systems and bring them, and be more comfortable bringing them in. Whether we be able to expand the program to serve a community like Concord,
I can't say.
And so one answer to that is that the PUC rebate is available to you tomorrow. So if you wanted to talk to Skip about your property in Concord, then you could do it tomorrow. You wouldn't be able to get the Northern Forest Center incentive, but everything else would be open to you. You wouldn't be able to get the Better Buildings either but Better Buildings may expand to other parts of the state. We're currently looking into that.
If you have funding ideas, though, we would love to do something like this in a place like Concord or Portland, where there's a bigger market and more access for people to learn about the system. So we're wide open to it.
Great, okay, thank you.
And the Home Performance with Energy Star program is available to anybody in New Hampshire. And to take advantage of that, you would go to New Hampshire Saves, nhsaves.com, and they can help you with your home. If you're not in Berlin, if you're in Gorham or anywhere else in New Hampshire, they can help you find funds for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah?
With regard to a residential system, multi-zone residential system, would it work with that? And also, how does it work with the hot water running off of it with regards to the summer months?
And Roger does have an owner-occupied building.
Yes, regardless of the number of zones, it's simply replacing what's making your hot water now. It also does integrate and make your hot water for domestic as well. Even in the summer months, you have an option to make that happen or not, depending on how.
So you have to run off the boiler in the summer also to make your hot water in the summer?
It can, if you want to do a complete, I want to get off of oil or off of whatever I'm doing now, it's standalone replacement. It can fully satisfy that.
You
Could
can.
it be synergized for the summer months with the PUC photovoltaic system, electric, jumping
Yes.
off of the pellet to the photovoltaic in the summer? That could be synergized?
Yes, and Better Buildings can
Better
help you with
Buildings
that.
can do that.
Better Buildings can help you with that.
If you were to go with a pellet boiler for heating during the winter, would it make sense to keep your existing oil-fired unit for hot water during the summer, and can they share a flue?
I'm not sure of the New Hampshire rules in terms of sharing a flue.
They can't.
No, they
They cannot.
They can't share a flue while they're operating simultaneously.
Yeah,
I don't know
correct.
if you can have the interlocks in the state and have only one operating but sharing a flue. That I don't know.
That's a definite maybe if you can make it idiot resistant.
Yeah, I know Maine and other states have rules that allow that, but there are certain parameters that say it's impossible to have both at the same time. But in short, you could choose to run your oil in the summer season if you so chose. You could do some math calculations and figure out if it would be more affordable to do that with pellets, and you'll find it's going to save you money to do it with pellets.
Yeah.
But you most certainly could say, I want to do this with oil. The system can be set up also on like larger commercial entities to say, well, we're doing so many gallons of oil, maybe we don't want to commit to a full replacement right now. We want to do what's called a partial load, and what that simply is say, instead of replacing 100% oil, it'll come in and replace maybe 90% or 95% of the volume of oil using pellets. And then on those 10-day, 2-week period during the winter, when you actually need more, you make the system designed for this, then it would tap into the oil as a reserve system. In homes, it doesn't make sense because the BTU load is so low. But when you get into much larger, like maybe several of these buildings together, maybe that's something to explore. And usually that's done with a partial load. You can reap about 90% of the savings as though as if you did a full replacement system for about 65% of the cost. So that's a consideration that some larger facilities would do, like schools. When we get into schools, that's something else.
Is there a lower limit where the pellet boiler doesn't really make economic sense as far as BTU load?
No, not from a BTU load. There's 8 different sizes in these. I didn't tap on that, but sorry if I speak in kilowatts here, but from as low as 12 kilowatts, which is just over 36,000 BTUs, up to as high as 56 kilowatts, which is just shy of 200,000 BTUs. And then after that, we start to stage multiple systems together to achieve greater heat loads. Yes, sir.
Has there been a study just in, between supply and demand, the okay now, but as you're bringing these in, what's going to happen 5-6 years from now as the supply keeps going up? Is the supply of pellets going to still be able to be there? I mean, I know I've been burning wood for 30 years, 40 years, and I'm definitely paying a lot more for my wood I am today and that was always controlled by whether I could get it on who was buying the wood or, so sometime it was kind of scary, you didn't know if you were gonna be able to buy it that year because everybody else was buying it up. So that's what I would be concerned about, availability of pellets 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now, without, you know, the market being.
Very valid question. Do you remember any of the percentages? Do you want to share any of those numbers off of that sustainability?
I guess I would add to his question that, you know, I saw some wood studies that were done during the licensing of the biomass plant here, which is going to come online in another year, and they talked about, you know, that would occupy a big chunk of the available wood, that they were talking about there was not enough wood for another wood burning factory. So I guess like him, I'd be concerned with replacing one expensive energy source with another.
Couple of responses. I don't have all the statistics off the top of my head, but you know, one, the pellets that are being used in this project right now, there isn't a pellet mill in this immediate area. The pellets are coming coming largely from Western Maine, and all those, you know, there's at least 3 pellet mills there that are all operating at about around 50% capacity. So there's significant production capacity there, and wood supply in that area as well. You know, when you start to do the numbers around tons, you need to do a lot of houses to get anywhere near like the biopower plant here in town. So again, for the foreseeable future, again, I don't have figures off the top of my head, but the sense is that the wood supply is fine.
I'll speak to that just in generalities to Maine, because I'm a little more familiar with the Maine numbers. I don't know if when that was done with the biomass case, that was speaking specifically to the wood harvesting in New Hampshire. Okay, but there is a company called Biomass Energy Resource Council that has much more data to support that kind of question and answering those kind of questions. But in Maine, with a housing stock of somewhere around 550,000 homes, if just 8%, we'll round it up to 10%, 10% of the homes, which is a lot of homes, 55,000 homes, were to convert to this system, it re-injects some $1 trillion of money, tax money, back into that state, just at 10% because of the savings there. The state itself has the capability to sustain through sustainable forest practices. I don't remember the number, but I know it's greater than 40% of the housing stock in Maine. It would take a long time, even if 10 houses a day were converting, just to reach even close to 50,000, which is only that 10% number. But the math has been done on various different organizations has done that. I know BERC, that's Biomass Energy Resource Council, is a good resource to try to dig into that to find out what you're looking at. There are many more mills that are producing pellets now that have come online in the last few years, well, not even out west as well, but just all across the whole northeast area, because not only for demand, but because the marketplace is going to need that. So if you went back, and the question that would normally follow that is, well, I remember in 2008 that pellets were all of a sudden hard to get to, or hard to get, and that was simply because what happened with oil, the quick demand, there was a rush for a quick install with the stoves and such, and the mills, obviously they took a little bit of time to produce that. There was just a lag in that production. But most of the mills right now all over New England are not even achieving 50% of their production capabilities. So there's a large room for them to expand as well. But looking at those sources,
another piece that plays into this is one of the strengths of the program here is tying it in with the energy efficiency, recognizing it's not an endless resource, that we do want to use whatever energy sources we're using effectively, efficiently. So I had a connection with the Better Buildings program, so we're putting these systems into houses that have been made as tight as they can be from an efficiency standpoint. Helps as well.
Can you mention the price freeze on the pellets?
Yeah, on the pellets. Thank you. Currently, Maine Energy Systems has been delivering pellets for $235 a ton for a little over a year. To translate that, actually I'm going to step further for a second. Through June of 2014, they have put out a guaranteed, what they call affordable Northeast Heat program. It's basically, they're saying that the price of pellets delivered from them within 150 road miles will not exceed $239 a ton, so a $4 increase in a little over 2 years. The reason they've done that is twofold. First is to give you an idea that the stability of pellets as a fuel is a very stable price. We're so accustomed to this volatility that oil has, and it's subject to Middle East turmoil, it's subject to different regulations, political influences, etc. So it moves quite a bit. We don't know if it's going to move 15 cents next year, if it's going to go up 75 cents, but that's a very strong margin from a percentage. But at $239 a ton, we'll call it $240. That's the equivalent of it being at about $1.99 oil per gallon in terms of the energy content. And just for quick numbers, there's approximately 120 gallons of oil energy content in a ton of pellets. So one way to look at that is if pellets were going to cost $360 a ton, you divide that by 120, that's the equivalent of heating oil only costing you $3. But in average, if we look over the last several years, 10, 12, 15 years of pellets, we'll find that pellets will generally increase somewhere between $4 and $7 per ton per year. That's what a norm is. Divide that by 120, you'll find that that's somewhere between 3 and 5, maybe even 6 cents a gallon for oil. If oil was only going up 5 or 6 cents a gallon, I don't think a lot of us would probably be in this room. But that just kind of gives that kind of relationship in terms of the volume of fuel and pricing.
The other piece that I would add on is even if prices for pellets do increase, and did you mention the price lock?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Even if prices do increase, get closer to the price of oil, it's helpful to remember that in that case, you're at least spending that dollar on a locally produced product to stay here. We're not just sending it overseas. So that's another important piece. Even if your immediate benefit isn't as great, there's no indication that it's going to happen. But even if the prices did go up, it's money that you're spending in your local and regional economy.
So how do you envision this being distributed, these pellets, these tons of pellets and stuff? I mean, oil trucks are all going around. I mean, oil trucks aren't being...
I was
You
behind
can't just leave your company, I'm not in Cold.
What kind of truck is that?
It's a valid question. We're not the only distributors of that. If you were to look at a map of where pellet manufacturers are, of course, they often have trucks. And they'll distribute to probably a more localized area. I mean, some of them are 25, 50, 75-mile areas, and certainly easily accommodate larger commercial deliveries. Residences, more frequent visits perhaps. Ideally in a home when this is set up, by the way, is to probably have fuel delivered to you 3, maybe 4 times in a year. We're currently delivering 150 road miles because we couldn't put the cart before the horse, so we also had to get involved with delivering pellets. There are companies in New Hampshire that develop pellets, Vermont that deliver pellets residentially as well. We get down toward the south, Jaffrey, New Hampshire, I'm trying to remember, New England wood pellets down there. There's several that deliver pellets currently. And I know that we get inquiries quite often as to what's the involvement for getting into pellet distribution and have people that are inquiring of that, and we're working with them to get them up to speed. Because that is something that people want to get involved with. They see the market exploding, but it's just a matter of when they put that capital cost in there. But right now, it's the demand is sufficient. We're able to keep up.
And basically, it's a truck with a hose. That fills your bin up just like your oil.
Is that locked in? Is that just your company with the locking it into whatever?
At the 239, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're never required to just buy from Maine Energy Systems. Absolutely not. That's just
no, but that would be if you bought the so if other people were buying systems, you don't deliver them for that price. It's your customers that you put the system in.
Yeah, we're doing that for the first 1,000 boilers sold, which will take us about that time frame. That's about the time frame for it. To put it in perspective, there's a place over in Lyme, New Hampshire area. Within his 25-mile zone, I think he's $215, $220 a ton. Southern Vermont, they're I think $205, $215 a ton. But for every 25 miles they drive, they start, it increases. So it's just simply a concentric circle piece. It was just easier because of the range that we had to say, here's the amount that we want. We have 275 tons, so 150 tons of pellets, silos, right over in Bethel, Maine, so quite nearby, and get regular, large deliveries of that in order to keep up with the demand. So it's certainly there.
Okay, we're going to have one more question, okay? And because we do need to tie things up so people can get back to work.
Okay.
So yeah, I just want to mention one thing. There's also, we're in the process of training local people to be able to work on these systems. So if you have a question about who's going to come and fix my system in the middle of the night, we're in the process of getting local people, Berlin, Gorham, Colebrook, who are going to be working on these systems. Okay?
Is there a convenient way, short of to measure moisture content in pellets?
From a homeowner standpoint, not that I know of, but generally, PFI, Pellet Fuels Institute, has standards that they set, and you can look it right up on their website. They're super premium, and a standard. Our focus really is on the